It was a typical Monday afternoon, the kind where the sun hung lazily in the sky, casting soft shadows across the bustling city. I sat at my desk, staring blankly at the computer screen, the rhythmic tapping of keys from my colleagues barely registering in my mind. My name is Harper, and I was in the midst of a mundane work trip that felt more like a prison sentence than an opportunity for professional growth. The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, and I could feel the weight of my unfulfilled dreams pressing down on me. The office was filled with the scent of stale coffee and printer ink, but my thoughts drifted elsewhere, toward Chloe. She had been my best friend since college, her laughter a melody that could brighten even the darkest days. Chloe had a way of making everything feel possible, her captivating hazel eyes sparkling with mischief and warmth. She was the kind of person who could turn a simple lunch break into an adventure, and I often found myself longing for those moments when we were together. As I glanced out the window, watching people scurry by, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was missing in my life. The thrill of spontaneity had been replaced by the monotony of deadlines and meetings. My heart ached for connection, for the kind of love that made your skin tingle and your heart race. But here I was, trapped in a cubicle, dreaming of escape. Chloe texted me just then. "Meet me at our spot? 7 p.m. sharp." A rush of excitement coursed through me as I read her message. Our spot was a small cafe tucked away in a quiet alley, where we had shared countless secrets and dreams over steaming cups of coffee. It was our sanctuary, a place where we could be ourselves without judgment. I felt a flutter in my stomach as I contemplated what this evening might hold. Would tonight be just another ordinary catch-up session? Or could it be something more? The thought sent shivers down my spine, igniting a spark of hope that maybe, just maybe, this would be the night everything changed. As the clock ticked closer to 7 p.m., I found myself anxiously adjusting my outfit, a simple black dress that hugged my curves just right. I applied a touch of lipstick and ran my fingers through my hair, trying to calm the butterflies swirling within me. The anticipation was almost unbearable. When I arrived at the cafe, Chloe was already there, her back to me as she leaned against the counter, chatting animatedly with the barista. The warm glow of the cafe illuminated her features, making her look ethereal. My heart raced as she turned around, and our eyes met. A smile broke across her face, one that made my heart skip a beat. "Harper, you made it," she exclaimed, her voice ringing with genuine delight. "Wouldn't miss it for the world," I replied, trying to sound casual despite the whirlwind of emotions inside me. We settled into our usual corner booth, surrounded by soft lighting and the comforting hum of conversation. As we sipped our drinks, Chloe opting for her usual caramel macchiato while I chose a classic cappuccino, I felt an electric tension building between us. The air crackled with unspoken words and lingering glances. "Have you thought about what we talked about last week?" Chloe asked suddenly, her expression turning serious. I knew exactly what she meant. The conversation about pursuing our dreams beyond this mundane existence. Chloe had always encouraged me to take risks, to chase after what truly made me happy. But fear held me back like chains around my heart. I admitted softly, looking down at my cup. "But it's easier said than done." "Harper," she said gently, reaching across the table to take my hand in hers. "You deserve to be happy. We both do." Her touch sent warmth flooding through me, a feeling that both terrified and exhilarated me. In that moment, everything else faded away. It was just us, two souls yearning for something more. As we talked about our dreams and aspirations, I couldn't help but notice how close we were sitting together. The space between us felt charged with possibility. It was as if every word spoken brought us closer to crossing an invisible line that had lingered between us for far too long. "Do you ever think about us?" Chloe asked hesitantly, her eyes searching mine for answers. My breath caught in my throat as I processed her question. Did I dare to dream about something more? The thought sent shivers down my spine, a mix of excitement and fear swirling within me. "I do," I confessed finally. Feeling vulnerable, yet liberated by my honesty, Chloe's gaze softened as she leaned closer, her voice barely above a whisper. "Then let's not waste any more time." In that moment, everything shifted. The air thickened with unspoken desires as we both leaned in closer. Our hearts raced as if they were in sync with one another's rhythm. It felt like destiny pulling us together. Just then, a loud crash interrupted our intimate moment. A group of rowdy patrons stumbled into the cafe, laughter echoing off the walls like an unwelcome intrusion. We pulled back instinctively. Reality crashed back in like a wave washing over us. But something had changed between us. An undeniable spark had ignited, a flame that refused to be extinguished by mere distractions. As we left the cafe later that night, hand in hand under a blanket of stars twinkling above us like diamonds scattered across velvet fabric, I knew this was only the beginning of our midnight escape, a journey filled with passion and uncertainty that would forever alter our lives. This introduction sets up Harper's internal conflict while introducing Chloe as a pivotal figure in her life. It hints at their deep emotional connection while establishing an atmosphere ripe for romance and tension. The following week passed in a blur of work obligations and restless nights, my thoughts perpetually drifting back to that magical evening with Chloe. Every time I closed my eyes, I could still feel the warmth of her hand in mine, the way our laughter danced in the air like fireflies on a summer night. But as much as I yearned for that connection, reality loomed large, reminding me of the boundaries we had yet to cross. It was Friday evening when I found myself at a company networking event, an obligatory gathering meant to foster connections, but often felt more like a chore. The venue was an upscale hotel, its grand lobby adorned with shimmering chandeliers and plush seating. As I navigated through the crowd, exchanging polite smiles and forced small talk with colleagues, I felt out of place, like a fish out of water in a sea of suits and ties. Just as I was about to retreat to the bar for a much-needed drink, I caught sight of Chloe across the room. She stood near a cluster of people, her laughter ringing out like music amidst the chatter. Dressed in a fitted navy blazer and tailored pants, she looked effortlessly chic and confident. My heart skipped a beat at the sight of her. She was a beacon of light in this sea of corporate gray. As if sensing my gaze, Chloe turned and locked eyes with me. A smile broke across her face, instantly melting away my anxiety. She waved me over, and I felt an irresistible pull toward her. "Harper, you made it," she exclaimed as I approached, her enthusiasm infectious. "Yeah, unfortunately," I replied with a playful roll of my eyes. "I'd much rather be anywhere else." Chloe chuckled softly. "I get it, but at least we're here together." We stood side by side, our shoulders brushing slightly as we shared knowing glances that spoke volumes. It was as if the noise around us faded away, leaving just the two of us in our own little world. "Want to escape this place?" Chloe suggested mischievously, her eyes sparkling with mischief. "Absolutely," I replied without hesitation. We slipped away from the crowd, finding refuge on a balcony overlooking the city skyline. The cool evening air wrapped around us like a comforting embrace as we leaned against the railing, taking in the breathtaking view. The city lights twinkled below like stars fallen to earth, and for a moment, it felt like anything was possible. I needed this, I confessed, leaning into the railing and letting out a sigh of relief. I didn't realize how suffocating those events could be. Chloe turned to me, her expression softening. "I know what you mean. Sometimes it feels like we're just playing roles instead of being ourselves." Her words resonated deeply within me, a reminder of how often we masked our true selves in pursuit of societal expectations. I glanced at her profile against the backdrop of glittering lights and felt an overwhelming surge of affection. "You're so good at being you," I said quietly, my voice barely above a whisper. Chloe turned to face me fully, her gaze searching mine for something unspoken. "And you're good at hiding," she replied gently. Her honesty struck me like lightning. It laid bare my insecurities and fears, the fear of stepping outside my comfort zone and embracing who I truly was. In that moment, vulnerability hung between us like an unbreakable thread. "I guess I admitted, feeling exposed yet strangely liberated by my honesty. Chloe took a step closer, her presence enveloping me in warmth. "You don't have to hide from me," she said softly. "I'm here for you." Our eyes locked once more, and time seemed to stand still as we stood there, two souls yearning for connection amidst the chaos of life. The tension between us crackled like electricity. It felt both exhilarating and terrifying. Just then, a sudden gust of wind swept through the balcony, sending chills down my spine and breaking the spell that had enveloped us. Chloe instinctively reached out to steady me, her hand gripping my arm firmly yet gently. "Whoa, didn't mean to scare you." She laughed lightly, but there was an intensity in her gaze that made my heart race. "It's okay," I replied breathlessly, trying to regain my composure as our eyes remained locked. I just wasn't expecting that. As we stood there inches apart, something shifted within me, a realization that this moment held more weight than either of us had anticipated. The air thickened with unspoken words, every heartbeat echoed with possibility. "Harper," Chloe began hesitantly, breaking the silence that had settled around us. "Can I ask you something?" "Of course," I replied cautiously. "What do you want?" Her question hung in the air like an invitation, a challenge to confront my deepest desires that I hesitated for a moment. It felt like standing at the edge of a cliff about to leap into unknown waters below. Did I dare to voice what had been simmering beneath the surface? "I want." My voice trailed off as uncertainty washed over me, fear mingling with longing. "What is it?" Chloe pressed gently, her eyes never leaving mine. "I want to be brave enough to pursue what makes me happy," I finally said, feeling vulnerable yet empowered by my admission. Chloe's expression softened further. She stepped closer until our bodies were nearly touching again. "You already are brave," she whispered earnestly. "You just need to believe it." In that moment, everything around us faded. The noise from inside the hotel became mere background chatter as we stood on that balcony suspended between friendship and something more profound. The world beyond felt distant. All that mattered was this connection igniting between us. But just as I opened my mouth to respond, to tell her how deeply those words resonated within me, an unexpected commotion erupted from inside the venue. A loud crash echoed through the air, followed by shouts and laughter from partygoers spilling onto the balcony in search of fresh air and excitement. The moment shattered like glass. Reality intruded upon our intimate exchange once more. Chloe stepped back slightly as people filled the space around us, our moment lost amidst their laughter and chatter. But even as they surrounded us, an undeniable tension lingered in the air, a promise unfulfilled yet palpable between us. As we rejoined our colleagues inside moments later, smiles plastered on our faces despite lingering emotions. I couldn't shake off what had transpired on that balcony, a glimpse into what could be if only we dared to embrace it fully. But deep down inside me lay an unsettling conflict, a moral dilemma brewing beneath layers of desire and fear. Could pursuing this connection with Chloe jeopardize everything we had built together? Would it risk our friendship or lead us into uncharted territory filled with passion and pain? As laughter erupted around us once more, each sound echoing against walls painted with memories, I knew one thing for certain. This was only the beginning of our journey, a midnight escape into love fraught with uncertainty but illuminated by hope. This section introduces a significant moment between Harper and Chloe while hinting at deeper emotional conflicts they will face later on. The weeks that followed that fateful night on the balcony were a whirlwind of emotions. Chloe and I found ourselves gravitating toward each other more than ever, our friendship blossoming into something deeper yet undefined. Each encounter was laced with an exhilarating tension that sent my heart racing, but it also left me grappling with an internal conflict I couldn't shake. We began meeting more frequently, often under the guise of casual outings. Lunch breaks turned into long walks through the park, and coffee dates morphed into late-night conversations that stretched until dawn. Each moment we spent together felt like a thread weaving us closer, yet I remained acutely aware of the line we were towing, the boundary between friendship and something more. One particularly crisp Saturday afternoon, we decided to visit a local art exhibit. The gallery was housed in a charming old building, its walls adorned with vibrant paintings that seemed to pulse with life. As we wandered through the space, I watched Chloe's face light up with each new piece she encountered. Her enthusiasm was infectious. It wrapped around me like a warm blanket, making me forget my worries for just a while. "Look at this one," she exclaimed, pointing at a large canvas splashed with bold colors. It's like the artist poured their soul onto the canvas. I turned to see her eyes sparkling with passion, and I couldn't help but smile. "It's beautiful," I agreed, stepping closer to examine the intricate details. The scent of her floral perfume wafted through the air as she leaned in to get a better look, and I felt a rush of warmth wash over me. "Art has a way of capturing emotions," she mused, glancing at me sideways. "Don't you think?" "Definitely," I replied, my voice barely above a whisper. "It's like each piece tells a story." Chloe turned to me fully then, her gaze penetrating as if searching for something hidden within me. "What story do you want to tell?" she asked softly. Her question hung in the air like a challenge, a reminder of my own struggles with authenticity. I hesitated, feeling vulnerable under her scrutiny. "I guess I want to tell a story about courage," I finally admitted, my heart pounding. "Courage?" she echoed, her brow furrowing slightly. "What does that look like for you?" I took a deep breath, feeling the weight of her question settle over me. "It means being true to myself and not being afraid to go after what I want," I said slowly, my voice trembling slightly. Chloe's expression softened as she nodded in understanding. "That's powerful," she said gently. "You have so much potential, Harper. Don't let fear hold you back." Her words struck a chord deep within me, an echo of the encouragement she had given me before. Yet beneath that encouragement lay an undercurrent of fear. The fear that pursuing this connection with Chloe could lead to heartbreak or ruin our friendship altogether. As we continued through the gallery, our shoulders brushed occasionally, sending electric sparks coursing through my body each time. The intimacy of those small gestures was intoxicating. It felt both thrilling and terrifying all at once. Later that evening, we found ourselves at a cozy cafe tucked away in a quiet corner of the city. The warm glow from vintage lamps created an inviting atmosphere as we settled into our seats by the window. The aroma of freshly brewed coffee enveloped us like an embrace as we shared stories and laughter over steaming mugs. "Remember that time we got lost on our road trip?" Chloe asked between giggles, her eyes shining with mirth. "How could I forget?" I replied with mock exasperation. "We ended up in that tiny town where everyone thought we were tourists." "Right. And you were convinced we'd find some hidden gem," she teased playfully. "And we did," I shot back, laughing at the memory of our spontaneous detour leading us to an unexpected beach where we had danced barefoot in the sand as the sun set. Our laughter echoed around us, drawing curious glances from other patrons, but neither of us cared. It felt like we were in our own little world where nothing else mattered. Chloe leaned forward to share another story, her animated gestures causing her hair to fall across her face. I couldn't help but admire her spirit. There was something captivating about her passion for life that pulled me in deeper each time we met. But amidst our laughter and shared memories lay an unspoken tension, a hesitation that lingered just below the surface. Each time our hands brushed or our eyes locked for too long, my heart raced with longing yet also fear, a fear of what it would mean to cross that line. "Harper," Chloe said suddenly, breaking through my thoughts as she reached across the table to take my hand in hers. The warmth of her touch sent shivers down my spine. It felt both comforting and electrifying all at once. "Yeah," I replied breathlessly, trying to keep my composure despite the rush of emotions swirling within me. "I know things have been different between us lately," she began cautiously, her gaze steady yet vulnerable. "And I want you to know, whatever happens next, I value our friendship more than anything." Her words struck me like lightning, both reassuring and terrifying at once. It was as if she had peeled back layers of uncertainty and laid bare the very core of our connection. "I feel the same way," I admitted softly, squeezing her hand gently as if anchoring myself amidst the storm brewing inside me. "But," Chloe continued hesitantly, pulling back slightly as if weighing her words carefully, "but what if there's something more? What if we're meant for something beyond friendship?" My heart raced at her admission. It was both exhilarating and daunting, a leap into unknown territory filled with possibility, but also risk. "I don't know," I replied honestly, feeling vulnerable yet compelled to confront this moment head-on. I've thought about it, but what if it changes everything? Chloe's expression softened further. There was understanding etched into every line of her face. It might change things, she acknowledged gently. But isn't that part of living? Taking risks. Her words resonated deeply within me, a call to embrace courage despite fear's grip on my heart. Yet even as hope flickered within me like a fragile flame, guilt gnawed at my insides, guilt over wanting something so profound yet fearing its consequences. Just then, a couple at a nearby table erupted into laughter, a reminder that life continued around us even as we stood on this precipice between friendship and love. Chloe glanced toward them briefly before returning her gaze to mine. There was an intensity in her eyes that made my breath hitch in my throat. "Harper," she said softly again, almost pleadingly this time. "I don't want us to lose what we have because we're afraid." In that moment, the world around us fading into insignificance, I saw clearly what lay ahead, an opportunity for connection unlike anything I had ever experienced before, but also an abyss filled with uncertainty and potential heartbreak. Our fingers intertwined on the table, a simple gesture yet laden with meaning. I knew one thing for certain. Whatever path lay ahead would require bravery from both of us. It would demand vulnerability and honesty as we navigated this uncharted territory together. But could I summon enough courage to embrace it fully? This section deepens Harper and Chloe's relationship through shared moments while highlighting Harper's internal conflict about their growing connection. The air was thick with anticipation as Chloe and I left the cafe that night, our fingers still intertwined, the warmth of her hand igniting a fire within me. The city was alive with the sounds of laughter and music, but all I could hear was the rapid beating of my heart, echoing the unspoken words that hung between us. The tension felt palpable, a tightrope we were walking together, and I knew we were on the brink of something monumental. "Do you want to come over?" Chloe asked suddenly, her voice barely above a whisper, as we stepped onto the quiet street. The glow of streetlights cast a soft halo around her, illuminating her features in a way that made my breath hitch. "I have some new art pieces I want to show you." I hesitated for just a moment, the weight of her invitation hanging in the air like a fragile promise. "Are you sure?" I asked, my voice trembling slightly. "What if it's too much?" Chloe turned to me, her eyes searching mine with an intensity that made my heart race. "I want to share this with you," she said earnestly. "I want to share everything with you." Her words sent a thrill through me, igniting a spark of courage deep within my chest. "Okay," I replied, my voice steadier now. "Let's go." As we walked to her apartment, the city buzzed around us, cars honking in the distance, laughter spilling from nearby bars. But all I could focus on was Chloe. The way her hair danced in the evening breeze, the way her laughter echoed in my mind like a sweet melody. It felt like stepping into a dream where anything was possible. When we arrived at her apartment, Chloe fumbled with her keys for a moment before finally unlocking the door and ushering me inside. The space was cozy and inviting, filled with art supplies scattered across the living room and walls adorned with vibrant paintings that seemed to pulse with life. "Make yourself at home," she said with a smile. Disappearing into another room for just a moment, I took a deep breath, absorbing the atmosphere around me, the scent of fresh paint mingling with something floral and sweet. It felt intimate here, like stepping into Chloe's world where creativity flowed freely. When she returned, she held a canvas draped in a soft cloth. "Okay, are you ready?" she asked playfully. "Absolutely," I replied, my heart racing as she pulled away the cloth to reveal an explosion of colors, a breathtaking abstract piece that captured raw emotion in every brushstroke. "It's beautiful," I breathed, stepping closer to admire it. "You've really captured something special here." Chloe beamed at my praise, her eyes sparkling with pride. "Thank you. It's inspired by us." The admission hung in the air like an electric charge. My heart skipped a beat as I turned to face her fully. "Us," I echoed softly. "Yeah," she said shyly, her cheeks flushing slightly. "The way we've been connecting lately, it just felt right to express it." In that moment, everything shifted. The air thickened with unspoken feelings as our eyes locked once more. The vulnerability between us felt tangible. It was as if we were standing on the edge of an abyss together, ready to leap into unknown depths. "I've been thinking about us too," I confessed quietly, feeling both exhilarated and terrified by my admission. "Really?" Chloe asked, her voice barely above a whisper as she stepped closer. I nodded slowly, my heart pounding in my chest. "Yeah, about what it would mean to take that next step." Her gaze intensified as if she were searching for something within me, a confirmation of what we both desired but had yet to voice aloud. "I want to take that step," Chloe said finally, her voice trembling slightly with emotion. "I want you to know how I feel." My breath caught in my throat. Every fiber of my being screamed for connection, yet fear held me back like chains around my heart. "But what if it changes everything?" I whispered. Chloe reached out gently, cupping my face in her hands as she searched my eyes for answers. "What if it doesn't? What if it brings us closer?" In that moment, her warmth enveloping me, I felt myself teetering on the brink between fear and desire. I wanted nothing more than to close the distance between us, to feel her lips against mine, but doubt clawed at me from within. "Harper," she said softly, leaning closer until our breaths mingled in the space between us. "Please don't be afraid." Her words ignited something deep inside me, a flicker of courage amidst the storm of uncertainty swirling around us. Slowly, I leaned forward until our lips were mere inches apart. Every nerve ending in my body tingled with anticipation, and then, without thinking, I closed that final distance. Our lips met softly at first, an exploration filled with tenderness and hesitation, as if we were both afraid of breaking this fragile moment. But as our mouths moved together, slowly deepening into something more passionate, I felt everything shift within me. It was electric, a rush of warmth flooding through my veins as desire ignited between us like wildfire. My hands found their way to Chloe's waist as she pulled me closer. Every brush of our bodies sent shivers down my spine, but just as quickly as it began, a sudden rush of panic surged through me like ice water pouring over flames. What had we just done? This wasn't just a kiss. It was crossing an invisible line that could change everything between us forever. Chloe pulled back slightly, her breath coming in quick gasps, as our eyes locked once more. There was an intensity there that left me breathless yet terrified all at once. "Wow," she whispered softly, her cheeks flushed and eyes wide with surprise. "Yeah," I replied shakily, feeling both exhilarated and overwhelmed by what had just transpired.
Wow.
But beneath that exhilaration lay an undercurrent of fear. The realization that this kiss had irrevocably altered our relationship. There was no going back now. "What do we do now?" I asked quietly, uncertainty creeping into my voice as reality crashed back in around us. Chloe's expression shifted from surprise to contemplation. She looked away for just a moment before meeting my gaze again, her eyes filled with vulnerability and longing. "I don't know," she admitted softly. "But whatever happens next, I want to face it together." Her words resonated deeply within me, a promise wrapped in uncertainty. But before I could respond further or process what lay ahead for us both, a loud crash echoed from outside, followed by shouts and laughter from neighbors gathering on their balconies below. The moment shattered like glass, the world intruding upon our intimate bubble once more, and suddenly everything felt uncertain again. All those unspoken feelings swirling around us left unresolved amidst chaos outside our door. As we stood there, hearts racing and breaths mingling, I knew one thing for certain. This was only the beginning of our journey into uncharted territory filled with passion and vulnerability, but also fear, a midnight escape into love fraught with uncertainty, yet illuminated by hope. This climax introduces a pivotal moment where Harper and Chloe cross a significant boundary while balancing passion and vulnerability. It ends on an unresolved note to keep readers eager for what comes next. The days following that electrifying kiss felt like a whirlwind, a dizzying mix of exhilaration and fear that left me reeling. Chloe and I had crossed a line, a boundary that transformed our friendship into something deeper, yet the aftermath was anything but simple. The thrill of our connection was overshadowed by the weight of uncertainty and guilt that pressed down on my chest like a heavy fog. I found myself replaying that moment over and over in my mind, the way her lips felt against mine, the warmth of her body pressed close to mine. It was intoxicating, yet every time I thought about it, a gnawing sense of dread crept in. What did this mean for us? For our friendship? For my life? At work, I struggled to concentrate. My colleagues chatted animatedly around me, but their voices faded into the background as I sat at my desk, staring blankly at the screen. The usual buzz of office life felt distant, almost surreal. I could barely focus on the reports piling up in front of me. All I could think about was Chloe and the kiss that had changed everything. "Hey, Harper." My coworker Lisa's voice broke through my thoughts, pulling me back to reality. "You okay? You seem a bit out of it." "Yeah, just tired," I replied with a forced smile, hoping she wouldn't press further. Lisa raised an eyebrow but let it go, returning to her conversation with another colleague. As they laughed and joked around me, I felt like an outsider looking in, an observer in my own life. Later that evening, I met Chloe at our favorite cafe again, but this time the air between us felt charged with unspoken tension. We sat across from each other, sipping our drinks in silence as if both afraid to break the fragile spell that hung between us. "What are you thinking?" Chloe finally asked, her voice soft yet probing. I hesitated, searching for the right words to express the whirlwind of emotions swirling within me. "I'm just trying to process everything," I admitted finally. "Me too," she said quietly, her gaze dropping to her cup. "That kiss, it meant something, didn't it?" "Yes," I replied firmly, meeting her eyes with determination. "But what does it mean for us?" Chloe bit her lip, her expression shifting from hope to uncertainty. "I don't want to lose what we have," she confessed. "But I also don't want to pretend like nothing happened." Her honesty struck me like a blow. It echoed my own fears back at me. "I feel the same way," I said slowly. "But what if it complicates everything? What if we ruin our friendship?" Chloe's eyes darkened with concern as she leaned closer. "But what if we don't explore this? What if we never know what could be?" Her words hung in the air like a challenge, a reminder of the risk we were both facing. But beneath that challenge lay an undercurrent of fear. Fear of judgment from others and fear of losing each other entirely. As we continued our conversation, I couldn't shake off the feeling that something was looming on the horizon, an external force ready to shatter our fragile bubble. The next few days passed in a blur of anxiety and anticipation until one fateful evening when fate intervened in a way I never expected. I had just returned home from work when my phone buzzed with an incoming message from Chloe. "Can we talk?" "It's important." My heart raced as I read her words. An unsettling feeling settled in my stomach as I quickly replied, "Sure." "Is everything okay?" "Not really." "Can you come over?" A knot tightened in my chest as I grabbed my coat and rushed out the door. The drive to Chloe's apartment felt like an eternity. Every red light seemed to mock my growing anxiety until finally, I parked outside her building and hurried inside. When I entered her apartment, Chloe was pacing back and forth, her expression tense and troubled. "Harper," she began immediately as soon as she saw me. "I need to tell you something." "What is it?" My heart raced as I braced myself for whatever news she had. "I ran into Jessica today," she said breathlessly, referring to my longtime friend who also happened to be my roommate. "She asked about you, about us." My stomach dropped at the mention of Jessica's name. She had always been protective of me and would undoubtedly have questions about any changes in my life, especially regarding Chloe. "What did you tell her?" I asked cautiously. I didn't know what to say. She seemed concerned when I mentioned we've been spending more time together, Chloe admitted, running a hand through her hair in frustration. I panicked and told her we were just friends. A wave of guilt washed over me. Jessica had always been supportive but also wary when it came to matters of the heart, especially when it involved someone close to me. "Do you think she suspects something?" I asked anxiously. Chloe shook her head vehemently. "I don't know." But she seemed uneasy, like she could sense there was more going on beneath the surface. My mind raced with possibilities. What if Jessica confronted me about this? What if she told others? The thought sent chills down my spine, fear creeping into every corner of my mind. I can't let anyone find out, I said finally, panic rising within me. Not yet. Chloe stepped closer, concern etched across her features. Harper, you shouldn't have to hide who you are or who you care about. I know, I replied sharply, frustration bubbling beneath the surface as emotions clashed within me. But this is complicated. What if people judge us? What if it ruins everything? Her eyes softened with understanding but also frustration. It was clear we were both grappling with conflicting emotions, desire battling against fear. I don't want to hide either, Chloe said quietly after a moment's pause. But we need to figure out how we're going to navigate this together. Just then, my phone buzzed again, this time with an incoming call from Jessica. My heart sank as dread washed over me. There was no escaping this confrontation now. Harper? Chloe urged softly as I hesitated before answering. Hey Jess, I said cautiously into the phone. Hey, where are you? Jessica's voice sounded cheerful yet concerned, a stark contrast to the turmoil brewing inside me. I'm just out for a walk, I lied quickly, glancing at Chloe who watched me intently. Listen, Jessica continued without missing a beat. Can we talk? There's something important we need to discuss. Sure. What's up? My stomach twisted into knots as anxiety clawed at my insides. I think we should meet up soon, she insisted firmly. There's something going on with you that you need to be honest about. Panic surged through me. How did she know? Had Chloe said something? Or had Jessica sensed the shift in our dynamic? Okay, I replied slowly, trying to keep my voice steady despite the storm brewing within me. Let's meet tomorrow? Sounds good. Just text me when you're free. As soon as we hung up, dread washed over me like a tidal wave. Uncertainty loomed large on the horizon, a storm threatening everything we had built together. Harper, Chloe began cautiously once more as if sensing my turmoil. I can't let anyone find out about us yet, I said firmly, my voice trembling slightly despite my resolve. Chloe nodded slowly, but there was a flicker of disappointment behind her eyes, a reminder that fear was threatening to overshadow everything beautiful between us. I understand, she said softly after a moment's pause, but there was an edge of sadness lacing her tone that cut deep into my heart. As we stood there, caught between desire and fear, I knew one thing for certain. Whatever path lay ahead would require courage from both of us. It would demand vulnerability amidst external pressures threatening our newfound connection. And deep down inside me lay an unsettling truth. Could love truly thrive amidst chaos? This section explores the emotional aftermath of Harper and Chloe's kiss, while introducing external conflicts that heighten the drama surrounding their relationship. The morning sun streamed through the window, casting a warm glow across Chloe's apartment as I sat on her couch, my heart racing with anticipation. Today was the day I would meet Jessica, and the weight of that impending conversation hung heavy in the air. I could feel the tension coiling in my stomach like a tightly wound spring, ready to snap at any moment. Chloe was in the kitchen, brewing coffee, her presence a comforting balm amidst my anxiety. I watched her move, captivated by the way she hummed softly to herself, lost in her own world. It was moments like these that reminded me how deeply I cared for her, how much I wanted to embrace this connection we had forged despite the fear that threatened to pull us apart. Coffee's ready, Chloe called out, breaking me from my reverie. She emerged from the kitchen with 2 steaming mugs, her smile brightening the room. You okay? I forced a smile in return, but my heart felt heavy. Yeah, just nervous about meeting Jess. Chloe set down the mugs and sat beside me, her expression turning serious. You don't have to do this alone. You can tell her about us if you want. I shook my head, a wave of panic washing over me. I can't. What if she reacts badly? What if it ruins everything? Chloe reached out, placing her hand on mine, a small gesture that sent warmth coursing through me. You can't live in fear forever, Harper. You deserve to be happy and to be honest about who you are. Her words resonated within me, a reminder of all we had shared and how far we had come together. But as much as I wanted to embrace that truth, doubt still lingered in the corners of my mind. I know, I replied softly. But what if it changes everything? Maybe it will, she said gently. But maybe it will also bring you closer to who you really are. As I stared into her eyes, filled with understanding and unwavering support, I felt a flicker of courage ignite within me. Perhaps it was time to confront my fears head-on, to embrace both the uncertainty and the possibility of love. I'll try, I said finally, determination creeping into my voice. Chloe smiled softly, squeezing my hand reassuringly before standing up to grab her coat. Let's go then. The drive to our favorite park felt surreal. Every moment stretched out before us like an uncharted path waiting to be explored. When we arrived, I spotted Jessica sitting on a bench beneath a sprawling oak tree, her expression serious as she glanced up at us approaching. Hey, she greeted as we drew near, her tone cautious yet warm. Hey, I replied, taking a deep breath as I sat down beside her while Chloe settled on my other side. There was a moment of silence, a palpable tension hanging in the air, as Jessica studied both of us intently. So, what's going on? She finally asked, her brow furrowing slightly. I exchanged a glance with Chloe. This was it. The moment of truth where everything could change. Jess, I began slowly, feeling my heart race. I've been meaning to talk to you about something important. Jessica nodded encouragingly, but remained silent, waiting for me to continue. I care about Chloe, I said finally, my voice trembling slightly as I spoke the words aloud for the first time. More than just friends. Jessica's eyes widened slightly as she processed what I had just revealed. Surprise flickered across her face before morphing into something more contemplative. I figured as much, she said quietly after a moment's pause. You two have been spending a lot of time together. I didn't want to hide it from you, I continued earnestly. But I was scared of what you might think or how it might change our friendship. Jessica's expression softened as she listened. There was understanding in her gaze that eased some of the tension within me. I appreciate your honesty, she said finally. And honestly, as long as you're happy, that's what matters most to me. Relief washed over me like a wave crashing against shore. Jessica's acceptance felt like a gift, a lifeline amidst the uncertainty swirling around us. Thank you, I breathed, feeling tears prick at my eyes as gratitude filled my heart. Chloe squeezed my hand gently beneath the bench, a silent reminder of our connection and the journey we had embarked upon together. But Jessica continued cautiously, her brow furrowing again. You know this isn't going to be easy, right? People will talk. I know, I replied resolutely. But I'm tired of hiding who I am and who I care about. Jessica nodded slowly. There was an understanding between us now, a bond strengthened by honesty and vulnerability. As we continued talking, sharing laughter and stories, the weight of fear began to lift from my shoulders like a heavy blanket being cast aside. In that moment under the oak tree with Chloe by my side and Jessica's support surrounding us, everything felt possible. Later that evening, after saying goodbye to Jessica, who promised to support us no matter what, I found myself back at Chloe's apartment feeling lighter than I had in weeks. Harper, Chloe said softly as we settled onto the couch together once more. I'm so proud of you. Thank you for being here with me, I replied sincerely, leaning against her shoulder and feeling an overwhelming sense of gratitude wash over me. In that moment, wrapped in warmth and safety, I realized how much this journey had changed me. It had taught me about courage and vulnerability. It had shown me that love is worth fighting for, even amidst uncertainty. Chloe turned toward me, her eyes shimmering with emotion. I felt an undeniable pull between us once more. It was a reminder that our connection was still alive and vibrant despite all obstacles we faced together. Whatever happens next, she whispered softly, brushing a strand of hair behind my ear, we'll face it together. I nodded slowly. Hope blossomed within me like wildflowers breaking through cracks in concrete, a promise of new beginnings waiting just beyond the horizon. And as we leaned closer, our lips brushing softly together once more, I knew one thing for certain. This was only the beginning of our journey into love, a midnight escape filled with passion and uncertainty, but illuminated by hope and possibility. This resolution wraps up Harper's journey while reflecting on personal growth and self-realization.